get started. So welcome everybody. My name is Matt Hardy. I'm the Program Director for Planning and Performance Management at AASHTO, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. Welcome to webinar 19 in our Transportation Asset Management webinar series that has been sponsored and is being sponsored by both FHWA and AASHTO. The topic of today's webinar is on data acquisition, collection, and methods. Comments that AASHTO has submitted for the docket for the risk-based asset management plans and the performance management requirements. Data is one of those important topics that I think many agencies, organizations are struggling with and will probably continue to struggle with asset management and performance management. We have been presenting topics like today's webinar in this series every 2 months going back to 2000, variety of topics related to transportation asset management. For more information on this webinar series, and you can visit our TAM portal at tam-portal.com. From there, you can click on TAM events in the main menu to register, and you will also find archives of previous webinars and links to video and slides from today's webinars. From today's webinar will be posted on that site. This is the new home of the AASHTO Subcommittee on Asset Management's sort of website. For more information on the subcommittee, you can .com, or you can go to tam.transportation.org. They both take you to the same place, and then click on Subcommittee on Asset About menu on the top right-hand navigation bar. If you have any suggestions on future webinar topics, today's webinar, please submit your comments or questions using the webinar's Q&A feature. You will not be able to ask your question. The only way we will answer questions during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar once all the presenters have finished presenting. A little bit about the phone logistics. Throughout today's webinar, the audience will be muted by default, and only the presenters or the panelists mute buttons to unmute their phones in order to be heard. And if you are a presenter, please do mute your phone if you are not presenting. That covers the logistics and a little bit of background about the TAM webinar series and this webinar. So now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Federal Highway Administration, Steve.
Good afternoon or good morning to everyone joining us today. I'm Steve Gay, leader of Federal Highway's Asset Management Team. In cooperation with AASHTO Subcommittee on Asset Management, is very pleased to sponsor this webinar series. We feel it's a great way to make community and bring people together around some important topics. We have some excellent presentations on the agenda today, so I'm just going to say a few words of introduction. The FHWA Office of Asset Management is committed to helping agencies understand how data can drive improvement in asset management decision-making. There have been many advances and changes since we first published the asset management data collection for supporting decision processes back in 2008. Today's presentations include 3 on data acquisition and collection in relation to transportation asset management programs and plans. We will hear from transportation agencies at the leading edge of the practice. We'll also hear from a presenter who has been supporting agencies in these efforts. Presentations will highlight just in some important lessons learned. Data is important as states develop their asset management plans. I'm going to say what data. We're all familiar with pavement, bridge data. What about for other assets? Question I'll ask, do you have the data you need to develop targets? Maybe more importantly, the data to develop. Do you have the data, this includes for management systems, etc., managing the assets for the whole life? Do you have the data that accurately represents the condition Is the data is of high quality? Is it timely? I say timely is load in the with this webinar, data acquisition, collection, and methods. We are in a series. In today's presentations, we turn to a topic we covered in our 8th webinar back in 2014 as a governance for improved management of highway assets. This webinar complements the previous webinar in an in-depth focus on data acquisition. We will highlight noteworthy activities and lessons learned. I do want you to visit the AASHTO Asset Management for slides and video of the webinar from 2014 and other webinars. Also, please visit the Federal Highway Asset Management website. We recently posted some documents on financial plans, and the asset management contact list is, continuously being updated. Finally, I just want to say that I believe you're going to enjoy today's presentations, and I know we have a broad audience here, more than just highway practitioners, transit, etc. I think some of the issues you hear, although may not pertain directly to your agency, I think in asset management in general pertains to organizations in general, and the issues either cross silos, agencies, modes, etc. Anna Park, our Spy Upon Partners, give an overview of today's webinar, review today's agenda, and introduce our speakers. Yana?
For this webinar, the primary learning objectives are building working knowledge of key concepts and definitions relevant to data acquisition, collection, and methods for transportation asset management, understanding specific applications of data acquisition, collection, and methodization agencies, and beginning to apply this knowledge in order to answer how can an agency data collection and acquisition capabilities support the management of infrastructure assets? What benefits can states expect by addressing data collection and acquisition? Lessons learned for agencies seeking to enhance data collection and acquisition as part of their TAM program. And of course, we want to share lessons learned, ideas, and knowledge. For the agenda today, we started off by hearing from Matt and Steve. I will introduce our speakers before each presentation, but in brief, our first presentation, the Department of Transportation, Caltrans, with a presentation from Joe Horton. Next, we will hear from Kevin Griffin from Utah Department of Transportation, and for our final presentation, we'll hear from Colin Brooks of Michigan Tech, who has been working with Michigan Department of Transportation. And we'll have Q&A at the end. Just another reminder, please submit your comments or questions using the webinar Q&A feature of the web time during today's presentation. And in response, the most frequently asked question, yes, we will make the slides and video available after today's webinar at tam.portal.com, and you can also get to it via the AASHTO subcommittee. Our first presentation today is from Joe Horton. Joe is an office chief in the Division of Research and As part of this position, Joe manages the Caltrans research portfolios for the divisions of maintenance and right-of-way and land surveys. One of the research areas that Joe has been managing for Caltrans is the development and implementation for scanning and other technologies for design, construction, and asset management. Joe holds a master's from Cal State University at Sacramento and a bachelor's in chemical engineering from UC Santa Barbara. Engineer in the fields of civil, traffic, and chemical engineering. Now, let's turn it over to Joe.
Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon. My name is Joe Horton. If you can go ahead and go to the first slide. Thank you. As as is introduced, my job at Caltrans is to work on the portfolios of maintenance and land surveys. And over the last few years, Caltrans has been investing a lot of money and time and research dollars and effort in the areas of application of mobile terrestrial laser scanning for the specific construction and asset management. Next slide, please. My presentation has pretty much 4 sections on it. Caltrans' initial research in this area, and then I'm going to talk about our ongoing research in mobile terrestrial laser scanning, MTLS. A few systems where we talk about mobile terrestrial laser scanning, and also APCS, which I'll talk about. Where we used them in our pavement management system called PaveM, Photolog, and our overhead sign project that we recently did in one of our districts. At the very end, I will summarize some challenges that we have for using MTLS data and information technology in the areas of asset management and also business practices as DOT. Okay, the initial research, what we did is back in 2005, our Division of Surveys and Land identified terrestrial laser scanning as being a great method of change. Back in 2005, our land survey group worked with our research department, DRI-SI, and worked with and we started research on this process. The whole idea was to produce standards and specifications for Caltrans projects so that we could roll in and start using. So we did a lot of research into this area. We evaluated at the time just the point terrestrial laser scanning technology. We came up with how to properly use it in a Caltrans project, and then we put it into our plans and specs so that we could start, using this. From this, Surveys was able to develop a lot of different processes, and we updated our survey manual. And additionally, we provided Caltrans surveying training for our survey crew so they can understand the use of light stationary, not only as a practitioner of using the information, but also as a way of oversight, since a lot of the projects we will be oversight to work going on the state highway system in California. Next slide. With this research going on and us adopting scanning, we determined that the next logical use for this, because the whole point of terrestrial scanning is the ability to give these high definition data clouds. We found that with the advent of people now providing a mobile scan a location at highway speed, we saw that this would be a game changer. Originally, the stationary laser scanning, we saw that we could use it for building projects and construction of projects. For the first time, we really saw that the mobile laser scanning could provide an asset management side to the house. So back in 2012, we did something different. Normally when we do research for one of our partner divisions, so we were doing research for surveys. We did a cross-cutting research project, and what we did was we actually brought in research, we brought in the divisions of maintenance, surveys, design and construction, and we did a decision document where we decided that we wanted to accelerate, the adoption of mobile terrestrial laser scanning in Caltrans. So for the first time, we got all these groups together, and we actually went out and bought a mobile laser scanning device for Caltrans with the express and meet the needs for all these different divisions in Caltrans. Each of the divisions actually put some money toward it, so like maintenance put money in, surveys dedicated people to be working on it, design and construction for oversight, even traffic was involved, and then of course research, we supplied researchers to assist in this process. So far we've found that the benefit would be it would be able to decrease the survey times and the cost and travel for motor, send survey crews out on the ground. That had the additional benefit of getting our surveyors and our people off the road, so that crews, which is the number one priority in Caltrans, is to keep our people and our travelers safe. We found that the data and geospatial data collection on it. So from this, we're now looking at how we're going to manage this to, start using it to find signs, guardrail, and barriers. So this process is ongoing. We have a research project that started in 2012. The first part of it has been the guidance of implementation. We went out and the whole idea was to get an implementation, a new technology in Caltrans. You can't just go to headquarters and say, here it is, go do it. Well, we have 12 districts. So in this research project, every single one of our districts, we've already done 6 of the districts already where we've went out there, let the surveyors use it, the design and construction use it, 6 districts. With this implementation, now we're getting buy-in from design and construction, and now the asset management side of traffic, of how we can get this to improve our asset management plan for Caltrans. Next slide, please. So I'd be a little remiss if at least, we're kind of proud of our device, and this is what we bought. We bought a mobile laser scanning. Here it is. It basically has 7 cameras. We mounted on an SUV, GPS, everything. Go ahead, next slide, please. It's set up the driver. We have a dedicated driver, and then we have in the back seat with 2 monitors. We get camera information, so we have the camera information from 7 different locations, 3 in the front, 3 in the back, and 1 to the rear on the pavement. And along with this, we get the point cloud data. Next slide, please. The nice thing about this, again, is that, we said that this got us people off the road. So here we are at highway speed in the Altamont, I think this is 205, and we're out there scanning, and we're able to just use a moving lane closure at about 65 miles an hour, CHP, and we're able to get quality data. Next slide, please. So the next one talks about this is up in Yuba County, and this just shows that the point cloud data we're able to get through. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And then the whole we've done from this research. This data is currently, that I'm showing you right now, is being used by our District 3 location to develop projects from CAPMs to whatever we have out there, the location usable, and it has a lot of benefits to us. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. So again, I talked about projects are ongoing with MTLS to train our districts how to use it, the various climates and environmental settings. Is something we found, because California, the continental United States. It's actually been a very interesting project, because we're actually finding that there's environmental setting issues. We found that we've had some fogging issues due to high humidity areas have caused trouble with our device performance. So even though MTLS is out there, it does have some limitations, and that we have to be conscious of it. And by doing this research project, our survey crews and our construction people and our design people are now understanding the limitations, which will make it, of course, a lot easier to implement by understanding what they can do. And I've listed 4 from here, where we're doing design support, engineering, environmental evaluation, asset management, collection, and crash investigation. One that I want evaluation, we're actually doing projects because we can scan it earlier. We're actually involved in the project. So instead of doing a project, a lot of times you don't have the resources to go out and get good survey data when you're developing. And well, because of MTLS, the ability to go out there and getting something quick and dirty, maybe it's not survey grade, but at least getting a digital train. Our designers and our environmental staff are getting a lot more information sooner in the process, which we feel has improved the quality of our projects. We've also found use for this in crash investigations. Caltrans has a MATE team, a multidisciplinary accident investigation team that's a co-team between Caltrans and CHP, and we go out there and when we have accidents, we'll actually use mobile laser scanning to help assist this. Recently, finished the Bay Bridge, the east span of the Bay Bridge, and we actually have the Bay Bridge completely scanned from the ground. We have full. It's our first structure that we have in minute detail of everything that's out there. And District 4, the area that's running the San Francisco Bay Bridge, is using that as a management tool for managing their bridge and be able to use it to tell the differences and changes of the bridge. The tool. Go ahead, next slide, please. Okay. So 3 current uses for MTLS in the asset management. The Automated Pavement Condition Survey, APCS. This is a part of our pavement management system. The Caltrans photo log, and a little project we did in District 4. Next slide, please. Okay. First of all, PaveM. Caltrans has a system called Pave. It's a decision-making tool for how we should develop pavement projects in the state highway system. As a decision support tool, it uses roadway information, which is the gray stuff to the left, the linear reference system or profile information or GIS data. It uses traffic data, that's in the orange, our ADT, our traffic data, our truck volumes. It uses our budget information, how much money we have available. And it also uses pavement condition information. And the pavement condition stuff that we're currently gathering for all of our highways is we're doing cores of our highways. We're going to talk about. We use ground penetrating radar and as-built to determine the pavement condition. This information all goes into, it's calculated with certain, maybe we want to use projects that have a lot of rubber, it rides asphalt. We'll put it into the machine and the model will then give us scenarios of how we can develop projects that would be cost effective to us or would meet the criteria that we're selecting. Well, let's talk about, next slide please. We're going to talk about the paving condition area, which is pretty much the asset management system. PaveM uses the asset condition out there to determine what we need to do. Cores, we've went out there and done it. Ground penetrating radar, we know the thickness through our ground penetrating radar cores and our as-builts. What the APCS is basically it goes out there and it's the mobile laser scanner. And that mobile laser scanning, it gives us the ability to give us continuous information about how our road is operating. So next slide, please. Okay. So before we had APCS, Automated Pavement Condition Surveys, we would actually send a person out there who would then stop every mile and evaluate a section of highway, and that's how we determine how the highway is. This is a very labor-intensive system. It exposes our workers on the side of the road, and it's really, at the time, that was best representation we could do to determine our pavement condition out there. Next slide, please. So what we did is we contracted out with vendors, and it does the visual analysis. It does a continuous analysis of our roadways from it tells us the conditions from asphalt, alligatoring. It shows potholes, chuck holes. It shows the conditions of how if we're having information with our pavement. It depends on either concrete or asphalt. It gives us continuous information, and that is the beauty of the MTLS, because we're getting cracks, all that information. So now that our pavement decisions of when we're going to go build and rehab our pavement are based on that we're doing with the MTLS data, even though it's MTLS, even though we call it APCS. So that's how we use MTLS for. Okay, photo log. For decades, Caltrans has been collecting on our roadway. We use this. We've had an old truck. We had a van, and we had a person that would drive every California once every 4 years in both directions, and we had it on film. We still have the films archived away. Gone to digital, so we're still doing the same thing of going out there and doing digital. So all it is just pictures with digital with ties to longitudinal system showing what we're currently doing. This information is used by traffic operations. It's using for information for obtaining for safety improvement program. It's used for traffic safety investigations. It's used for access management determination. Our legal division is a big use of our photo log. It seems to get sued for everything in Caltrans. Our maintenance division uses it for safety planning before people go out there, and also for asset viewing. And our local planning uses it for local development intergovernmental reviews. So it's a very important and valuable tool, but it's dated. You know, we finally goes next slide, please. So what Caltrans is doing, we have a new photo log. Well, we're working on a new photo log. We're no longer going to call it a photo log. We're going to call it the Roadside Data Gathering Analysis Distribution System. It has three main components is what we're looking to roll out. This is where we're working for. Go next slide, please. We're looking to find, and of course, when this rolls out, we're going to replicate the current abilities of what our equipment does out there. So we're going to get pictures of all the locations. We're going to get, you know, lat, longitude information. But then we're found that you know, environmental wants to use this for our environmental review. So instead of just looking at the center line and to the right, we're going to go to a wider vision, so that now we have more information, so we can do environmental reviews quicker and faster, improving efficiency. We're also going to, instead of capturing pictures every 0.01 miles, we're going to capture 0.005 miles, so we'll get 200 capture points per mile. And what we're also looking is improving how people can access the data through an enterprise web portal, which we currently have, but can be. Phase 2, again, I talked about the digital imaging. And then when this phase 3 rolls out, we're going to expand it to use LIDAR to get out information about identifying our assets, attribute the identification and the measurement of the asset assessments, such as like the retroreflectivity signs, inventory, and also to show change detection. So the photo log is going to go from something that just a picture to tied to it, and that's an ongoing project that we're funding and trying to do an RFP on. Next slide, please. The last thing I want to talk about on projects is our District 4 overhead sign project. District 4 is the Bay Area of California, the San Francisco Bay Area. Basically what happened is back in 2012, the Federal Highway Administration released updated guidelines for retroreflectivity on overhead and roadside signs. So District 4 challenged surveys to go out there and find a way of doing this quicker and faster and more efficient. So District 4 surveys went out there, took the mobile laser scanning that we have that we're using on this research project, and they went out and scanned this location. So this was a great improvement. What District 4 was able to do, they were able to go up and map 600 miles of freeway assets in the Bay Area in less than three months, which if we used standard survey crews, it would have taken months and months and months. So here's a picture of the survey locations, some of the survey locations, one county that they're looking at. What they developed is a system where they were doing the surveys, but then they were creating a porthole that they could then detail the information so the information was available as soon as possible. So they did a survey grade scan in a matter of hours. You know, we didn't have a big traffic impact. This is a very congested area of California. By going at freeway speeds, we're able to get the information as fast as possible. For one of the first time, well, not one of the first time, but early in the process, before we actually did the preliminary engineering document and environmental review, we actually had the information out there. The designer was able to work through. They developed a workflow that they created this on a web-based portal. It was very beneficial to them. So from this, they were able to execute the project relatively fast. I'll show you that in a second. On the true benefit of this is they stood up to do this project, but then surveys had the forethought to keep this data available to use it on the next projects. So after we got this project done and they scanned the information, they were able to use this on 4 capital projects. And again, this is what they did. When they got the survey data, they actually went and put a web portal, and they made it so the designers can go out there and actually hit the overhead sign that give them all the information down to their location plus all the different qualities of it. It really improved the process and improved. Next slide, please. And the final thing I'm going to talk about is challenges of using MTLS. Currently in Caltrans, MTLS is very siloed. Surveys is going one way, structures, traffic and maintenance are all going, but they're all kind of working toward this one location of our asset management. And we're kind of at a tipping point where when we get our new geospatial information officer, we most similar to maybe like Utah, where we do a more system-wide system. What we found though is the data for asset management. Just the size of the point cloud data that we're gathering is huge. So this data that we're getting, so we can make it into asset management deliverables. We're still having issues with post-processing of the data because sometimes we need specialty software to do this. Point clouds are huge data files, so we're looking at how we're going to have to change our and we need to develop plans on how we're going to store and disseminate the data that's going on in the future. From this, informing the reports and processing of the data so we can use it for asset management, construction, and design. Pretty much that's what I have. Next slide. Questions, I'll be available at the end of the webinar, but other than that, I guess I'm ready to hand it back over to the moderator.
So, and just as Joe said, if you have any questions for Joe's presentation, please enter them of your menu bar. So our next presentation is from Kevin Griffin of the Utah Department of Transportation. Over the past 22 years, Kevin has served UDOT in a variety of capacities, filling roles both as an engineer and program manager. His current position is Director of Maintenance. He graduated from the Utah State University with a degree in Civil and Environmental Engineering in 1994 and has been with the Utah Department of Transportation since that time. And now I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Thank you. Hope everybody can hear me okay. My name is Kevin Griffin. I am the Director of Maintenance for the Utah Department of Transportation. My pleasure to kind of run you through today what we've been doing with our MMQA, what we call MMQA Plus program, and our mobile data collection we've developed for that program, and how we're using that information now to actually distribute maintenance dollars or maintenance budgets to our 4 regions we have within the state. Appreciate Joe's presentation. Utah has done a lot of LIDAR work since 2012, and I'll touch on that a little bit later in the presentation, but that's really helped us with our feature inventory. Next slide, please. So our MMQA program originally started in 1997, and it was run on Excel spreadsheets, and basically each station was doing their own data collection and their own assessment. There was not a really great statewide effort and conformity in how that was supposed to be done. Since that time though, and especially since the year 2004, we have had a consensus on our MMQA program statewide, and it's all run in all of our 4 regions the exact same way. We developed our budgeting process in 2012 using this data, and during that time though, we also found that we had some data quality issues, and I'll touch on those here a little bit later. So in 2013, we developed a different way of actually collecting that data, and we went to data collection teams. And then in 2014, we all, for efficiencies, we created our mobile application, and this is the current methodology we're using today. Next slide, please. So just as a precursor, so you understand what the UDOT maintenance budget does, it does not include any of our major bridge or pavement repairs. That is all handled with our federal program. We call our maintenance funding Code 1 funding. It is used for what we call our Level 2 road system as far as any pavement is concerned. And that is a roadway system that handles 1,000 cars, less than 1,000 cars, or 400 trucks a day. So anything above that type of ADT or truck functionality is actually handled with the system. And our federal dollars take care of that system significantly all on its own. Since I said UDOT's been using LIDAR since 2012 to go out and drive every state highway that the UDOT has purview over. And with that, we have also been doing asset extraction from that, and that has helped us update our feature inventory database, which we own in our maintenance management system. That is information we feed into our Dayton DTIM system for every roadway within the state for our pavement and bridge program. And that system gives us recommendations on treatment type and priority on where we should be going in the next 4 years with our federal and our Code 1 program as it relates to pavements. Next slide, please. So like I said, we initially started the process in 2011. Our last upgrade was in 97, sorry. Our last upgrade was really in 2011. And we've been evolving very quickly since that time to look at new technologies and also have everything we're doing based in the GIS type of platform. Like I said, our feature inventory now is as much as can be done is done with LIDAR. The LIDAR where it cannot see everything. If you're out in a rural area, it usually cannot see, say, drainage inlets. And so there still are boots on the ground efforts for a complete feature inventory data set, but we have been able to understand our volumes out there much more clearly now that we're using the LIDAR data collection process. With our MMQA program, we currently measure 16 assets, and most of these assets are assets that are very safety related, and also including our snow. But with each one of these assets, we have an actual performance target that UDOT has identified that we want to meet on a yearly basis. Our measurements are taken by our MMQA measurement teams, and those individuals are made up of actual maintenance staff. So we don't have any contractors or any anybody from our asset division going out and taking these measurements. It is the individuals that are actually out there working on the road that is actually out there measuring these. Please. This is just a quick kind of a graph that shows on a yearly basis how we would have done with those assets that we're currently measuring. Where the blue line is showing the the red line is showing the target, and the blue line is showing our actual performance. So with this now, with the numerous years we've been collecting this data, we have been able to produce regression curves. And with those regression curves, we are now in a situation where we can actually determine the delta between dollars spent and performance of an asset related to its target. Next slide, please. So the data used from our MMQA Plus system and our OMS is used to what we develop our level of maintenance analysis. So this level of maintenance analysis, like I said, and it ends up producing a matrix for us. Next slide, please. And this is just kind of a quick slide we put together to kind of demonstrate how that works. So this is a statewide average for paint striping. So for the year, when we collected this data, statewide we achieved a C. So our actual goal that year was to have a B. So it showed on a statewide level another $2.142 million into that program for us to be able to meet the target. Vice versa, if we are over exceeding a target, it also shows the deduction in the amount of money we should be taking away from the activity and putting into their target. So it actually works in both directions. It identifies if we need to increase funding to get to the target, or also if we need to decrease funding to get to the target. Next slide. So like I said, in the past, we had 85 maintenance stations, and each maintenance station was doing their own data collection for MMQA. So you can figure you have 500 people out there. And what we noticed with the data quality is efforts of training and going out on a yearly basis before they start their data collection cycles, you're still going to get about 500 different opinions. And so what we did now is we've created data collection teams. And we have about 15 teams now throughout the state, and they're located in our 4 regions, and we allow the regions to make up the individuals who are on those teams, but each team usually consists of 2. How they go out and collect the data. Some of them will go out and collect every asset in this segment at one time. Another region, though, has created, say, a drainage collection team, and then other teams to collect other assets. So we haven't just told them how to do it. We've left up some leeway there, and the reason we did that was to induce some efficiency. We initially thought that when we went from the 500 people measuring to the data collection teams, we would induce some efficiency on the labor side. But what we ended up seeing is that didn't really happen. So we started realizing, really, for us to be more efficient with this program, we had to take a look at some different things here, and that leads into the mobile piece of this. But some of the benefits we definitely saw, and also why we went to the collection teams, was for data accuracy. It's gone through the roof since we changed our methodology. And it makes our analysis of the LOM much more accurate, and you're always going to have some anomalies there. That's a given. You're never going to be 100%. But with the data we are getting now to make that analysis, it is much more accurate than we were in the past. But some of the things we didn't realize that have come out on the negative side, some of the stations felt left out of that process, and we had a hard time back to the station personnel and the station supervisor, where in the past they were involved in that data collection process. Now we have teams that are not necessarily associated with that station going out and collecting this data. So we had to also devise a way to get that information back to SAR and what the work is they need to do, and I'll touch on that in a minute. Next slide, please. We started the process in '97, and up until about 2014, we were using notepads and clickers and DMIs, which were in our trucks. Now we are actually using an iPad Air 128 gig model. And the reason we chose that is the 128 gig iPad Air can and does have GPS capability, which is pretty good, but you do not have to have a data plan with it. So we depend off of working offline. So these data collection teams, and every individual has their own iPad, can go out and collect data, but not have to have a data plan of money. With each defect they collect, it geolocates the data, and we can QA that. I'll show you that here in a minute. But it's greatly reduced our collection time, and I'll show you the last slide I show you will be a percentage of collection cycles. We've also, like I said, we've had to create a way for us to share the results of what that was. Because once these individuals get back into their Wi-Fi, either their station they're at or their office, they just automatically upload the data into the system. So it downloads into the database, goes into our maintenance management system, and records the actual grading of that segment. UDOT actually grades every segment of, and so it is a lot to do on our cycles, and we're actually currently looking at a better and feasible way for us to do this as we move forward in the future. Next slide, please. The benefits is even with the GPS, it has quite high accuracy. It has a retina display, which worked very good for us for using outdoors. We also looked at using other devices such as a Google-based device, etc. But we decided to go with the iPad. On the negative side, though, it's limited to iPad products, and they are not cheap by any means. And some of our other divisions need more data input and capability by having the ability to run Windows or maybe use laptops. So have a benefit, but there's also some drawbacks to them. Next slide, please. So this is just a couple actual mobile application that we have on our iPad. So when a data collection team is going to go out and collect data in a specific station boundary and a specific segment, they download that information, and it's stored within the iPad itself. And you can see in the bottom left of that, the bottom left slide there, and so they can pick their station. And in the bottom right corner, it actually shows them the segment they are going to measure that at that moment. And in the right top corner, it also has what we call our MMQA Plus manual. So it's right there with them in a mobile. They're out in the field. If they have any question of how those assets are supposed to be measured, they have the ability to look it up right there at their fingertips. Next slide. So as they go into the application, so now they've selected a segment. You can to collect the data how they want. You don't have to collect every asset in one pass as you're driving down the road. You can do it multiple passes. They're mainly only doing drainage, like I said, so you can turn on and off the features, and that's what that top left screenshot is showing. And as you're going through and collecting your data, as you can see in the bottom slide, it'll highlight with a specific color or symbol the actual geospatially located location. Next slide. So with that now, once we measured a segment or all the measurements are done, so how do we solve getting that information back to our station personnel? It's a mobile navigation site. It's a web interface we've developed to where MMQA mobile repository, and they can look up every data collection record that was done within their station boundary. And when they click on, it'll bring up every defect they found. Go ahead, next slide, please. So what this is here at the repository, this is from our MOAB station, and this is for our asset of repair and replace signs. So when they went into this, they're able to see now, and if you look at it on the bottom right screenshot, that is where the actual was located when they were driving down the road. But the thing that's nice, we can go to screen view or to road view, and you can see that the dot right there is right next to the asset. Advisor knows that is the sign they need to go out and look at and either repair or replace, etc. So this helps us close that loop information. What is the asset? What sign is it? What piece of guardrail is it, etc. that we have lost by going to the. And this is kind of the last slide I want to show you. The title there where it says total MMQA costs without Region 2. The reason we took our Region 2 data out of this is, like I said, we still have a boots on the ground effort for our feature inventory, and Region 2 office over the last couple of years has been out inventorying additional parts of their drainage system that the LIDAR data could not pick up, and they were charging it to the same activity we do for data collection with our MMQA program. So the data doesn't show our Region 2 of our 4 regions, but if you take a look at the actual graph on the actual savings there, a high at one point in the spring of 2013 of 41% and a low of 31%. So we've introduced efficiency now in our data collection process by going to a mobile application. And in turn, the data we're getting is making that level of maintenance analysis so much more accurate that we're able to fund our regions to the proper level for these assets so they can maintain them in the proper manner. Just one quick note on how we set targets. We actually have a committee. It's called the MMQA committee, leadership. It includes station personnel, station foremen, of course ourselves here from central maintenance that meets every 2 to 3 years. And we go through our MMQA program and determine if those targets are still adequate from what we would expect to see from our organization. And the last update we did was in 2012, and we haven't had a change since then because we still feel our targets are pretty much where they need to be. But that's, I think, pretty much the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Kevin. Our final presentation is manager and senior research scientist at the Michigan Tech Research Institute, a research center of Michigan Technical University, environmental and transportation research programs for the Institute. His recent research has focused on developing and demonstrating applications of remote sensing technologies for transportation infrastructure assessment to help improve the efficiency of asset management. He's been leading a Michigan DOT project on developing a new user-friendly 3D tablet-based tool and accessing bridge inspection data. Colin holds a master's degree in environmental management from Bachelor's of Science degree in pre-forestry from Lenore Rhine College of Hickory, North Carolina. He's a Society of Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing and the Association of Unmanned Vehicle Systems International and the U.S. Geospatial Intelligence Foundation. Now I'll turn it over to Colin.
All right, thank you very much. Just wanted to make sure that you could hear me.
You sound great.
Okay, I will go ahead then. So I'm going to talk about a project funded under the Michigan DOT research program where we've been developing a 3D bridge application to help us of bridge condition data. Next slide, please. So the problem, as we've discussed, and people here be familiar with, is MDOT is faced with an aging bridge inventory and such as the new element level requirements. And MDOT, or I'm going to call it MDOT from now on, really has been interested in increasing the efficiency and reliability of the data being collected, which I saw was also a theme in the UDOT proposal that was just shared. Next slide, please. So current bridge inspection practices focus on utilizing paper forms that are printed out, brought out to the field. Information is written on them, and then there's a manual data entry step to once teams get back in from the field in order to populate a bridge management system database. Next slide, please. And then also, while the teams are out there, there's a process similar to earlier, where photographs are taken documenting bridge deterioration and other bridge elements, and those are stored separately from the inspection data, so they're not all available in one location. Next slide, please. And past inspection reports that are taken out into the fields as well to help verify the accuracy of the data, make it easier just to note changes since the last inspection. Next slide. And is that the exact locations of the defects on the bridges are not stored, which really creates an inconvenience and a problem is the data is difficult to visualize. It's challenging to tabulate overall quantities of defects, and also to duplicate inspections. The amount of spalling or delamination that's talked about in part of a section of a bridge or a bridge element, whether or not you're referring to the same problem the next time. And so with the new element level data requirements coming along, it really didn't seem efficient in order to be able to collect this new style of data. Next slide, please. So MDOT put out a research proposal for teams to propose their solution to help address these problems. And my team at the Michigan Tech Research Institute, which is a center of Michigan Technological University, in collaboration with Dr. Tess Alborn from up on our main campus, proposed the 3D bridge application as an inspection tool, a software tool that could be used. And it would in particular be used by the MDOT bridge inspectors for collecting, displaying, and summarizing the bridge inspection data that they're required to collect. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of the process that we have been developing under this Michigan DOT funding. So as I mentioned, our purpose is to replace the paper forms and make it easier to access data, also to be able to integrate other types of data such as LIDAR or GPS tagged photos. So we wanted a design that really used the bridge interface and in a 3D environment that could, where the user could mark up a true 3D representation of one, add in the location tagged photos, and be able to leverage that 3D framework that's top and mobile platforms, and then integrate that data with the Michigan DOT bridge management system, either via Wi-Fi, preferably over the cellular data network, 3G or 4G, so that information can be rapidly both. So the 3D bridge app that we developed really helped take advantage of some of the advances in portable data entry technology, helping reduce the amount of time it takes the field staff to collect the data, bridge inspection process more efficient by having an electronic data entry form available. And the photographs you can see where we took this, where we went out in the field on a variety of tablets and with the MDOT inspectors, and then had an interactive session where we discussed where to go next in improving the interface. Next slide, please. So the 3D bridge, or just 3D bridge for even shorter, really enables the inspectors to collect and record all of the necessary data for the bridge inspection process in one tool. And I said right now it's focused on the element level data collection process with 4 condition states, but we are under a second round of funding developing NBI interface as well. And when you're out there recording the individual defects, each defect can be annotated with a description, photos, quantity. There's context-sensitive pull-down menu. So if you're clicking on a bridge deck, it will only bring up parts of the bridge deck, parts of the elements that are appropriate to the bridge deck. You can enter the data. You can edit the marker. Originally, by default, for example, we were going with circular markers, but now we can do. So you can indicate a large area of cracking or spalling or whatever it may be. And then also those field database values from the most recent inspections, especially the text fields, where that information is useful to access. Next slide, please. So here's an example of us tagging the photo taken out in the field. The user, in this case, is clicking on that same location on the bridge with our representative 3D model of the bridge, and it's recording that information, and then that location-specific information can be accessed next time. All of these devices have GPS built in, so the lat long can also be recorded in addition to the coordinate system on the bridge. Next slide, please. Hopefully coming up. And here's an example of being able to do some defect shapes in order for the inspector to be able to record that. So they can put in the area, or they can size it using interactively on screen. That's part of our new functionality. They can rotate it, reposition it if necessary, if they don't like the exact location. And also, this is a fairly good 3D model of the bridge. Part of what this software tool does is it pulls enough information out of the bridge management database to be able to create a sufficiently representative 3D model of the bridge. Part of the issue there is not every bridge necessarily has a CAD-ready 3D model, for example, although I know MDOT, amongst many other agencies, is developing an end-to-end 3D model that can be ported from one part of the bridge's management life cycle to the next, from design to maintenance and along those lines. But we needed one that could be generated for any bridge. We generate that 3D model. The user can go in and edit it, and we have found we've had good feedback on. Next slide, please. Again, more of the functionality there. So here is more, you're using the defect and also some different ideas of how the 3D model of the bridge can help with the inspection data. And again, that information is saved for future inspections. We're also designing this system in order to be able to integrate other 3D model formats, such as I said, eventually for CAD models as well, once those exist for every bridge. Next slide, please. Oh, and the navigation, there's also a navigation system on there so that people can move around different views of the bridge, north, south, east, west, as the case may be. The functionality is once the inspector has recorded or updated the various distress types and locations as part of the element rating, we can auto-generate a summary report, and that can be done either by condition state, or it can be done at the element level, where the amount of square foot as recorded by the bridge inspector is summarized and then available by elements or components. And this has been functionality that has been very important to our end users, is to be able to auto-create this kind of reporting, and it can even be done while the person is out in the field. So MDOT has seen this as the future goal of being able to utilize 3D models and 4D models, so adding a time component, really, to monitor throughout its lifetime. And people can imagine that as this information is recorded and you get where the distresses are and the square footage and how they've changed over time, this gives more of a location-specific and accurate assessment of how the bridge is changing over time. Next slide, please. The benefits that we've discussed with MDOT that they see coming out of this and that we see as well is there are benefits of using a location-specific 3D interface beyond just inspection, but really as a tool management, and the app we've developed enables this future. And transportation agencies, Michigan DOT and other condition and deterioration of one component to other related components. So if you have a pier or that maybe is one part is changing and another part is not changing, then you can compare those and see how those are changing specific information, which is intended to help improve forecasting a condition, meeting the needs of the bridge to more efficient asset management. And we are having discussions with other this tool about how to take this tool beyond Michigan once the second phase of the development is completed. And this project is currently due to be completed in September of this year. Next slide, please. So this is that are working on it here. My own team at Michigan Tech, and then we are working particularly closely with Rich Catherines and Becky Curtis at Michigan DOT, and very grateful for their help. And that's what I have to say about the 3D Bridge app at this time, and I'll stick around for questions.
Thank you, Colin. All right, that concludes our presentations for today. We'll all give an applause from our desks. Thank you all to our presenters, and now it's time for the Q&A. So now, continue. We have several questions now, and I'll just go through them in the sequence they came in. So just keep typing in your questions, and we have time to get through hopefully most of it. All right, so let's start with the first question. I think this is directed at Joe. How, if at all, is what you're talking about different from LIDAR technology?
Well, it is LIDAR technology, mobile laser scanning. So there's really no differences. It's more of the application of how we can bring it into our business practices, what I was trying to hit upon.
And then another one for you, Joe. Could you elaborate on how MTLS could be utilized in terms of crash investigation?
What we do is when we have either a fatality, a crash, a multi-fatality crash, an officer-involved shooting, an accident involving a Caltrans or CHP worker, we will go out and investigate the site. And current procedure is we would go out there and they would analyze, while the traffic is there, we try to get our team out there when it occurs to do measurements. So we'd actually be out there with measurements where the vehicles, because what the MATE team will do is they will actually reconstruct the last 24 hours of the driver and then put together what happened, what was the causation factors of the crashes. Well, closing a major freeway for roadways for 6 to 8 hours, depending on how in-depth the accident was. So the idea of now being able to go out there and scanning the road, supplement what we did from the investigation, or to actually scan the data as we're investigating the location, makes it so we don't have to keep the closure there as long. And it provides additional information that maybe they scanned the initial information, but they wanted to see outside stuff, so they're able to actually go and rescan the roadway together. So it's been very beneficial. The lawyers think it really, the lawyers and engineers think it's really enhanced the quality of the reports, and it has it's a good use for our technology.
Thanks. This is another one for you. For efforts, you mentioned that you share this with locals. Do the MPO, RTPOs, counties, and municipalities request the info? Is there a way for them to do so easily? And is this agency work intensive to try to deliver what they want?
We make the data available. It's open data. So when we do the photo log, it's a standard of what our roadways look like. Now, the difference between other states and California is Caltrans only manages the state routes. So if the locals are doing something that would involve the areas around our state route, or they were going to do work on our state route, then they'd be more than happy, than invited to use this information to support their project delivery or their asset management requirements. There's no requirement currently that I know of that we require the locals to do the same type of photo log on their roadway system. So it's more of a benefit. It's like, hey, we take the pictures, whoever wants to use it can use it.
Okay. Another one, cost of the MTLS on your slide number 11. Is there a separate cost for software use, interpretation, etc.?
Yes. Well, it all depends on how you use it. Actually, Utah should probably. What we currently do is we get the point cloud, and the hard part we're seeing is how do you get the point cloud data into an asset management database. So, because right now Caltrans has huge databases on our assets, and they're traditionally input certain ways from, investigations or such. What we'd like to find is a way of automating that, so when we do the MTLS, that we can, there's maybe some do that automation, and that seems to be the missing link that would make this a more speedy asset management. Currently, I believe Utah actually pays the contractor to go out there and analyze their information to populate the databases for Utah. We probably same thing. But there's that software gap that we're seeing, and that's an additional cost.
Joe, this is Kevin. That is correct. We pay our contractor to post-process the data for us. What we've done is giving them specific data fields for each asset. So if they're fill out each data field, and then when they give us that information, it's already in a format to where we can import it into our asset management feature inventory system. And also it comes into what we call our U-Plan program, which is a GIS platform to where all this information is open to the public and can be seen geospatially by accessing U-Plan, and you can break it down into where you can see every asset. We own an asset on a specific road in a specific county. So you are correct there.
Thank you both. Many of the benefits presented illustrate how technology can improve business process. Have you made any effort to quantify, justify the expenditures that have been made? If not, how do you sell the idea to upper management?
We haven't quantified it. That's part of actually what we're thinking of doing as another research project. A good example is that District 4 project I talked about, where they went out and they scanned the location, and then we used the data for 3 or 4 more capital projects. Well, we know the standard of how much those capital projects would have cost if they had done the surveys. So the idea of being able to reuse it, I know we can do a cost benefit. So we are already looking at, we want to capture this using this to show us where we're going, but we have yet to, because we don't have a standard business practice for all Caltrans, that's what we're leaning forward to, because we're trying to actually, we're trying to get out of these silos to make this whole business plan to lean Caltrans in the right direction. We see as our mission in research benefit analysis. The scratch back of the envelope shows that we're showing a very beneficial cost, and and you also got to realize Caltrans' number one priority is getting our people off the roadways and making it safer for them. So that is an intangible cost that we can just point back to also. So we believe that we have it, but no, we haven't done it yet, but we're leaning forward to do it.
All right, we'll wait for you to share that with us in the future. For Kevin, this is a question for you. How frequently do you inspect assets via mobile app?
We collect that information twice a year. So we'll do a spring collection and a fall collection.
Okay, thank you. The next one was just the video, the audio from this webinar, and you can, it's all going to be on the TAM portal. You can distribute the URL, which will allow you to share it, or you can download it and then share it as well. So this is for you, Kevin. Is the GPS on your iPads 100% reliable? Does your GPS have survey level accuracy?
With the iPad Air, no. But with the LIDAR data we are collecting, we have done some work with that information and have made it survey grade. But where I'm out collecting a defect on an asset, such as a sign or a guardrail or linear footage of, say, an edge rut on the edge of a roadway, I don't necessarily need survey grade. It'll get you within a couple of feet for us to be able to have the quality of data we wanted. And it also identifies geospatially where that deficiency is so that the station can go out and rectify the problem.
Another one for you, Kevin. What are the data architecture requirements for the MMQA field data collection?
Well, that's a good question. So could they clarify that a little bit, exactly what they want me to touch on there? State the question one more time.
All right. So the question is, what are the data requirements for the MMQA field data collection?
Okay. I think what they're referring to asset, how is it inspected, and to what level, how are they counted, etc. In our manual, which is on UDOT's homepage website, you'll see a tab that says Inside UDOT, and if you go to Operations and Maintenance, you can download our MMQA Plus manual. It explains in detail every asset we measure, graded, how the data is collected, etc. I hope that's what the question they're asking for is.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Colin, what mobile platform are you using to collect your 3D bridge data? Are you using iPads?
We have developed our software to be cross-platform compatible. We have it running on Android tablet, iPad, iOS tablets as well, and we're also porting it to the Microsoft Surface environment as well. The software that we picked to provide the 3D interface is able to run on multi-platforms, which we thought was important because we weren't sure all the possible range of tablets that our users might be deploying in the field.
Thanks, Colin. And there's a question on the data architecture question for you, Kevin. So the clarification is, where does the database on the web, central server, etc.?
With the actual mobile application, it first goes into what we call our mobile app database. And so when it is downloaded from the Apple device, it goes into that mobile database. And then what we call our OMS system, which is the Agile Assets Maintenance Management System. And that is where that information is turned with the formulas into producing the grades that relate to the target.
Thanks, Kevin. So that concludes our for now, and I'd like to move on to the next slide. The next webinar is going to be on TAM tools and resources, and that's going to be held on April 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern. The focus of that webinar will be on highlighting available resources and tools that one can use to support their TAM programs. I hope you'll be able to join us for that. Additional webinars quite a while, scheduled every 2 months. And please send ideas for webinars you'd like to see to Steve Gay or Matt Hardy. And just a reminder, for more information, just visit tam-portal.com and you'll be able to get on past webinars and the upcoming webinars. Thank you, everyone, and look forward to reconnecting in April.
Yep, and I was going to add one item. This is Steve from Federal Highway. Going back to what Yana just said, or proposed other webinars, we had a request like that. There'll be a webinar on Wednesday, March 9, same time, on asset management in geotech assets. I look forward to that one. I have good presentations from state DOTs and others. So it'll be a webinar March 9th. You can get information on that from the Federal Highway and AASHTO websites. Yeah,
and they'll be on the AASHTO website, and I think the Federal Highway website directs you to the registration portal that's at AASHTO for the webinar.
Exactly.
The same process as the one. All right, thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.